It begins with a letter, a strange one, usually full of typos. Sometimes it comes by post, but more often it arrives in your inbox. The tone is urgent, formal, and yet oddly personal. "Dear Sir, I am Prince Ayodele from the Nigerian royal family." You pause. You've never met a Nigerian prince. You didn't know Nigeria had royalty. And yet there it is, a plea for help. The prince is in exile. He needs to move $25 million out of the country. He just needs someone trustworthy, someone like you. And for your trouble, he'll give you 30%. A life-changing reward for doing almost nothing. You laugh. It's absurd. It's clearly fake. And yet millions have fallen for it. The so-called Nigerian prince scam is not just a joke or meme. It is one of the most enduring and profitable fraud operations in history. Known more formally as the 419 scam, named after Section 419 of the Nigerian Criminal Code dealing with fraud, this con has stolen billions of dollars from victims around the world. It has ruined lives, drained savings, sparked suicides, and bankrolled international crime networks. And it's still running today. But how did something so obviously fake become so frighteningly effective? To understand that, we need to go back long before email, before the internet. Back to the 19th century, where the seed of this deception was first planted. In the mid-1800s, French authorities began to uncover a disturbing trend. Con artists were sending out letters claiming to be aristocrats, trapped in prison or exile after political upheaval. They had fortunes hidden away, but needed help accessing them, help that came with a promise of generous reward. These were called Spanish prisoner scams, and they worked for a simple reason: they preyed on two universal human vulnerabilities, greed and sympathy. Fast forward to the 1980s in Nigeria, where political instability, military coups, and economic collapse had left many young men jobless and desperate. Oil wealth flowed into the hands of the elite, while unemployment among the educated middle class soared. With little opportunity and growing access to typewriters and fax machines, a new generation of scammers revived the old formula, this time with African flair. The earliest Nigerian scams were fax-based or sent via physical mail. They often invoked themes of trapped fortune, corrupt officials, and secret bank accounts. Some were so elaborate they involved multiple letters, fake documents, and even phone calls from so-called embassy officials. Most people ignored them, but some didn't, and those few who answered became targets for long-term exploitation. In the early days, these scams were largely analog, but their structure was already sophisticated. Scammers would build trust over time, feeding victims official-looking documents, government seals, and international wire instructions. Victims would be asked to pay small fees to help release the larger fortune taxes, legal clearances, administrative costs. Each payment was a step closer to the fictional jackpot. But that jackpot never came. By the late 1990s, the game changed forever. The internet brought speed scale and anonymity. Suddenly, a scammer in Lagos could send thousands of emails a day, cost-free, risk-free, and borderless. The infamous Nigerian prince email exploded into public consciousness, becoming a punchline and a plague all at once. But why Nigeria? Why not claim to be from Switzerland or Dubai or a fictional country? There's a method to the madness. Studies by cybersecurity experts reveal that the outrageous nature of these scams is intentional. They're not trying to trick everyone, they're trying to filter for the gullible. The spelling mistakes, dramatic stories, and implausible wealth aren't errors. They're signals. If you respond, you've self-selected as vulnerable. You're more likely to keep paying down the line. And make no mistake, some victims paid a lot. In 2003, a Czech businessman wired over $600,000 to a scammer posing as a Nigerian bank executive. He sold property, borrowed money, and when he realized it was a scam, he took his own life. In 2007, an Australian woman mortgaged her home and emptied her savings, believing she was helping a Nigerian diplomat. She died by suicide when the truth surfaced. These aren't isolated cases. They're part of a global network of victims, many of whom never report the crime out of embarrassment. So who's behind these scams? In the early 2000s, the Nigerian government began cracking down on so-called Yahoo boys, young men, often college-educated, operating internet cafes. where they conducted scams using free email accounts and fake identities. The term Yahoo Boy became synonymous with cybercriminals in Nigeria, named after their favored email service. But these weren't lone wolves. As money poured in, scams evolved into organized operations. Criminal groups built call centers, hired hackers, laundered money through shell companies. Some even partnered with drug cartels and human traffickers, creating dark symbiotic relationships. What began as small-time fraud became transnational organized crime. And they didn't just target the West. Victims range from retirees in the UK to businessmen in India, pensioners in Germany, to middle-class couples in Brazil. The internet leveled the playing field for criminals. And yet, despite all the warnings, all the news stories, all the PSAs, people still fall for it. Because the core of the scam hasn't changed. It still offers the same thing: hope. Hope for wealth, for justice, for being chosen. The email says, "I trust you." It says, "You are the one." And for people who feel invisible, left behind, or desperate, that's intoxicating. It's not just about the money. It's about the story. The scammers call it chopping. To outsiders, it means fraud. To them, it's survival. Lagos, Nigeria. In the bustling heart of the city, amidst honking horns and chaotic markets, an invisible empire thrives. It doesn't build skyscrapers or factories. It builds illusions. Here, in internet cafes, luxury apartments and modest homes, hundreds of digital con artists operate around the clock, crafting lies with surgical precision. They call themselves Yahoo Boys. But don't let the term fool you. This isn't amateur work. The modern 419 scam has evolved into a sprawling multinational enterprise. With hierarchies, specializations, division of labor. It looks more like a corporate sales operation than a criminal network. Some write the emails known as scripts. Others act as loaders, preparing fake documents with Photoshop-level skill. Then come the callers who speak fluent English, French, German, or Spanish, posing as diplomats, bankers, or attorneys. There are even engineers who build fake banking websites so real they pass casual inspection. And above them all, the chairmen, the ones who never send emails, never make calls, but who control the money, the cars, the property, the bribes. This is the inner machinery of the Nigerian prince scam. Contrary to the stereotype, not all Yahoo Boys are street kids. Many are graduates. Some studied IT, others psychology, and they apply both disciplines with unnerving skill. Before you ever receive that email, you've already been profiled. Using leaked data from past hacks, public directories, or social media footprints, scammers can tailor messages to your age, gender, nationality, and even your profession. A retired American. You might get a military general's widow asking for help moving pension funds. A French engineer. Perhaps a request from an oil tycoon's daughter escaping civil war. A lonely divorcee. Then prepare for the romance variation where the prince becomes a soldier in Afghanistan, seeking love and rescue. And once you respond, the real game begins. The scam follows a playbook. First comes the hook, an urgent but plausible story. Then the escalation, the sudden complication, like of the deepening of trust documents, photos, video calls, sometimes deep fakes and emotional appeals. Victims are led through an emotional funnel: skepticism, curiosity, hope, and eventually investment. Not just money, but identity. They become part of the lie, defending it to family, hiding it from friends, justifying each payment as one step closer to a miraculous payday. And the scammers know exactly when to push, when to pull back, and when to strike. One former Yahoo Boy, speaking anonymously, explained, "We don't scam people. They scam themselves. We just create the world. They choose to live in it." It's easy to scoff at victims, to mock them as naive, but the truth is darker. Many victims aren't stupid, they're simply vulnerable. Grief, loneliness, financial ruin, hope. These are the raw materials of every great con. And the tools of the trade, they're everywhere. There's a thriving underground marketplace where scammers can buy fake passports complete with holograms, voice modulators to imitate accents, VPNs and proxy servers to spoof IPs, loaders for washing money through crypto or digital gift cards, even tutorial videos on Telegram and dark web forums explaining best practices for extraction, manipulation, and damage control. But perhaps most disturbing is the culture around it. For many young Nigerians, scamming has become not just a hustle but a dream. On social media, Yahoo boys flaunt Rolexes, champagne private jets, and European shopping sprees. They pose beside luxury cars with hashtags like "Man No Salary Gang" and "Blow Money Fast." Music videos glorify the lifestyle. And in a country plagued by youth unemployment and political corruption, who's the real villain? The government, the oil executives, or the guy who outwitted a rich foreigner? This moral ambiguity fuels the machine. Because for every journalist exposing the fraud, there's a neighbor saying, "At least he made it out." The scam has metastasized beyond Nigeria too. Copycat networks have sprung up in Ghana, South Africa, the Philippines, and Malaysia. Some partner with traditional mafia groups to move money and launder funds. Others focus on romance fraud, inheritance scams, or job offers. But the backbone remains: build trust, exploit hope, and drain everything. Even tech giants have struggled to contain it. Email providers like Gmail and Yahoo ironically spend millions on spam filters and AI detection. But scammers adapt. They misspell words intentionally to bypass algorithms. They space out email text with invisible characters. They rotate through thousands of burner accounts. It's a cat and mouse game where the cat is always one step behind. And while the internet is their arena, they've taken it offline too. In-person meetups have occurred. Some scammers travel abroad to close the deal. Victims are lured to fake embassies complete with actors and props. Others are invited to Nigeria, where they're extorted, kidnapped, or worse. This is no longer just fraud. It's industrialized psychological warfare, and it works because the global system lets it work. Weak extradition laws, corrupt officials, outdated cybercrime legislation, banks that don't cross-check suspicious transfers, tech companies unwilling to police content beyond the surface, and most importantly, shame. The shame that silences victims. That keeps the scam alive by ensuring no one speaks up. But some do speak. It begins with disbelief. "I thought it was a joke. He sounded so kind, so real. I just wanted to help." These are the first things victims say. The next is always the same. "I didn't know I was being scammed until it was too late." The Nigerian prince scam is a global crime with global consequences. Behind the humor and memes lies a staggering body count of broken lives and stolen futures. The victims come from every country, every background, and every walk of life. No one is truly immune. The illusion is the same, but the details vary. Sometimes it's a royal heir, sometimes a UN official with frozen assets, a widow with a locked inheritance, a soldier trapped behind enemy lines, or a woman in love with a man who never existed. One of the most devastating variations is the romance scam. These are more than emails. They're full-fledged relationships, sometimes lasting months. When the request for money comes, it doesn't feel like a scam. It feels like helping someone you love. Take Margaret, a retired nurse from Manchester. She met David, a US contractor working in Afghanistan. He was kind, attentive, and lonely. They planned to meet. Then came the delays, a passport issue, a banking error, an emergency medical bill. Over the course of 14 months, Margaret wired over $150,000. She drained her pension, took out loans, sold her car. When she finally went to the police, they showed her the real David, a Nigerian teenager using a stolen Facebook profile. She wept, not just for the money, but for the loss of love. And this is what makes the scam so insidious. It doesn't just steal money, it rewires the victim's entire reality. Financial loss is often just the beginning. Victims face humiliation. Marriages collapse. Careers are ruined. Some fall into deep depression. But was it really obvious? In the world of fraud psychology, experts talk about cognitive dissonance, the discomfort we feel when facts contradict beliefs. Scammers weaponize this. They create a narrative so emotionally rewarding that the brain wants to believe. And when doubt creeps in, they gaslight it away. They send more fake documents, more promises, more love. They isolate victims. Tell them not to trust friends or banks. They just want to steal your fortune, they say. They're jealous. It's a slow, toxic indoctrination. So why does it work? Because the scam taps into something primal, the fantasy of being chosen. You and only you are trusted with this secret fortune, this rescue mission, this romance, this destiny. It flatters the ego while bypassing logic. It offers hope in a world full of loneliness and uncertainty. And today, the game is more advanced than ever. Scammers now target victims on dating apps, social media, LinkedIn, even multiplayer video games. They use WhatsApp, Telegram, and encrypted platforms to avoid detection. Some run entire boiler rooms, fake call centers, where dozens of scammers work in shifts, each assigned a list of active victims. One notorious ring in Malaysia, busted in 2021, operated like a BPO. Receptionists greeted new employees. Trainers taught them emotional manipulation. Senior scammers received bonuses for top earnings. It was a scam factory complete with biometric scanners, HR policies, and performance charts. And the money, it moves fast. Funds go through crypto wallets, gift cards, and foreign shell accounts. Laundered through eBay listings, gambling platforms, and even online charities. By the time a bank flags the transfer, the money has vanished into the ether. In 2022 alone, romance scams cost US victims over $1.3 billion, according to the FBI. That's just one category. Add in inheritance scams, fake job offers, investment frauds, and the Nigerian prince archetype, and the global losses soar into the tens of billions. And the profit isn't just financial. These scams feed broader criminal ecosystems. Human trafficking rings launder money through them. Terrorist groups receive illicit funds from them. Weapons, drugs, and political bribes are financed by them, and yet law enforcement struggles to keep up. Most victims are outside Nigeria. Most scammers are inside. But international cooperation is slow. Extradition treaties are outdated, cybercrime units are underfunded, and political will often lacking. In some countries, scammers bribe police to avoid arrest. In others, they simply move to the next jurisdiction. And in many places, the victims' own banks blame them for being careless. But the real question isn't, why do people fall for this? It's, why is the world still letting this happen? The answer is complicated. It involves poverty, corruption, digital illiteracy, and a tech industry more focused on growth than safety. It involves governments that underinvest in education and overinvest in surveillance. It involves a culture that shames victims instead of empowering them. But perhaps most of all, it involves our collective unwillingness to see behind the joke, because the Nigerian prince scam isn't funny. It's a mirror. It reflects a world where desperation meets technology, where loneliness becomes leverage, where stories are monetized, and where millions are lost because we're too busy laughing. The hunt begins with silence. No footprints, no fingerprints, just an email, one IP address, one trace of a login, one bank transfer. This is the reality for cybercrime investigators tracking the Nigerian prince scam. They are chasing ghosts, scammers who disappear behind VPNs, fake names, disposable phones, and bank accounts opened under dead identities. But even ghosts leave shadows. In a small, dimly lit office in The Hague, a Europol analyst scrolls through thousands of flagged transactions. Across the Atlantic at an FBI field office in Washington, an agent runs a virtual sting operation on a romance scammer posing as a British soldier. And in Lagos, a quietly determined Nigerian policewoman prepares to raid a known Yahoo boy compound. This is the new battlefield, one where the weapons are algorithms and the victories are measured in bank account closures, not arrests. But they are fighting back. In recent years, law enforcement around the globe has begun to organize like never before. Multi-agency task forces, cybercrime units, and international sting operations have begun to dismantle pieces of the 419 empire. In 2019, the FBI's Operation Rewired led to 281 arrests across 10 countries. They seized millions in cash froze accounts and retrieved mountains of digital evidence. But it's not just the arrests, it's the message. For too long, scammers operated with impunity, confident that their borders protected them, that their victims would stay silent, and that their crimes were too low-level to matter. That's changing. Nigerian authorities, long criticized for inaction, have formed the EFCC Economic and Financial Crimes Commission specifically to tackle financial fraud. They've arrested high-profile Yahoo boys, seized Lamborghinis, and even begun publishing cybercrime wanted lists. But it's not just about police. Whistleblowers are emerging. Some are reformed Yahoo boys who have turned informant. Others are victims who now educate. NGOs and cybersecurity firms have created global databases of known scammer emails, IPs, and aliases. Volunteer networks on Reddit and Telegram run scam-baiting operations, tricking scammers into wasting their time recording their tactics and handing over evidence to authorities. One ex-scammer known online only as Ghost419 now works with anti-fraud researchers. "I saw too many people cry," he says. "Too many mothers, too many suicides. I wanted out. Now I help catch the ones still in." But even as the good guys mobilize, the landscape evolves. AI now plays a double role. On one side, machine learning helps detect fraudulent messages, analyze writing patterns, and identify known scam structures. On the other side, scammers are using ChatGPT-style tools to perfect grammar, create more convincing messages, and automate thousands of fake conversations. Voice cloning now lets scammers sound like anyone. Deepfake video tools allow them to show a face that isn't theirs. Romance scammers have begun building full AI-generated personas, complete with social media hobbies, family trees, and matching video content. And then there's the business angle. Big tech platforms, email providers, social media networks, messaging apps have been slow to act. Some say they're overwhelmed. Others critics claim prioritize profit over safety. While companies like Meta, Google, and Apple now have fraud detection teams, much of the work still falls on under-resourced nonprofits or volunteers. Meanwhile, cryptocurrency has created a fraudster's paradise, anonymous, borderless, irreversible. Many scams now demand payment in Bitcoin or USDT, making recovery almost impossible. Even if law enforcement traces the wallet, the trail often ends in a jurisdiction with no extradition treaty. But despite the scale, the deception, and the tech, there is hope. Education is spreading. Governments now run public awareness campaigns. Banks deploy AI-driven fraud alerts. Schools teach digital literacy. The stereotype of the Nigerian prince is no longer a secret, it's a warning sign. And for victims, resources are improving. Counseling, legal support, community groups. Platforms like scamsurvivors.com and the Global Anti-Scam Alliance offer lifelines to those still reeling. But perhaps the most powerful weapon in this fight is the truth. Telling the story, exposing the tactics, naming the pain, removing the shame. Because as long as victims hide, the scammers thrive. As long as we laugh it off, they stay invisible. But when we look them in the eye, when we see the system behind the email, we begin to dismantle it. So where does this story end? It doesn't. The Nigerian prince will return. In new forms, new languages, new tactics. Because the scam isn't just about Nigeria. It's about us, our dreams, our fears, our vulnerabilities. And until the world closes the gap between the connected and the protected, the powerful and the poor, there will always be another prince, another story, another victim. But the more we speak, the harder they fall. In the end, the real royalty isn't the one promising you millions. It's the truth that costs you nothing and saves you everything.